Good morning. This is the Innovation Conversation. How you doing, Tom?
Good, Kevin, live from ShopTalk 2025.
Wow, Las Vegas.
Oh yeah, Vegas, baby. Third,
Bright
third
light,
time,
the
third
bright
time this year.
lights.
Third time this year already.
Wow. Um,
Yeah.
the
Nope.
so I think you've been to pretty much every shop talk that they've done.
I think
Uh,
I've been to every, yeah, not Europe and not Chicago, but I've been to every one that they've done here, every traditional shop talk and every grocery shop.
wow.
Yeah.
What's your sense of it? I mean, is it the kind of thing that continues to grow, or is it okay? Go ahead.
Yeah. I think it's continuing to grow. Um, I think that the growth in um, the growth in exhibitors and vendors, tech companies, I think that's growing a little faster than, the customer base, is growing. The retailer base
Right.
is growing, which stands to reason, right? There's not a bunch of retailers out there. So it does stand to reason that, that would grow a little faster. So I think that the competition um, for audience time with retailers is as high as ever. We found that tech companies here are feeling like, when they have the retailer meetings, which they do, and ShopTalk does a great job at orchestrating those. When they have those, it's really good quality meeting time. I think generally, tech companies wish they had more. Of course, they're always going to want to have more. Um, but they're also finding that it's there, you also as a tech company have a fair amount of capacity to just build your partnerships with other tech companies and whatnot. So, I think it's pretty productive. I think they've done a really good job at keeping it growing, keeping it relatively fresh, um, keeping it interesting, and certainly keeping attendance up.
We've talked a lot on Morning Newsbeat about how, in a lot of ways, the grocery sector innovates less quickly than other retail sectors. Is it what kind of presence or footprint are you seeing on the grocery side? I'm assuming you're going to see the likes of Walmart, Kroger, Hy-Vee, Amazon, Target. But beyond that, are you seeing much of a presence from grocers who are there looking for, maybe looking for a magic bullet is what they may be looking for.
Yeah, I've had several discussions with grocers here. In addition to your list, who of course is all here, I've had discussions with HEB, with Ahold Delhaize. Those two come to mind in addition to your list. So yeah, no, the grocers are out here, and I think if it's possible to become even a bigger theme than it was in the past, retail media is everywhere here. It's almost like it's a retail media conference that also showcases a bunch of tech. Um, it's not quite that bad, but it is real. I mean, everywhere is retail media. And whether it's the capabilities of building the network, the retailers themselves, measurement, um, you can see the retail media battle between DoorDash play out here, just in their different promotional placements all around Mandalay Bay. It's amazing how much bigger that becomes, and those conversations happen everywhere, right? They happen, with the tech companies, they happen with the large consultancies. They're really happening everywhere.
the I mean, there are companies that are creating their own retail media networks. There are companies that are looking to outsource that. But you had mentioned to me before we came on that Chase Bank is creating a retail media network. Is
Yeah.
that for its own branches, or is that for other kinds of retail?
I don't know that that's necessarily fully determined yet or fully shared. My sense is that, what an amazing, platform they have, with the number of customers that they touch, the trust that they have with customers. You could certainly see them promoting themselves and their products, through this, but through those touch points and with that trust, they have a pretty interesting opportunity, to create a retail media network that other brands can perform on.
Right. It's so
Pretty interesting.
fragmented. Yeah, it's so fragmented, that whole sector at this point. How are they either measuring success or saying they're going to measure success?
Yeah, I think that is also very fragmented right now. I think that uh, I mean, every retail media network has their own, performance measurement, of their own measurement of their own performance. Uh, those definitions, are still pretty disparate. I think it's definitely a challenge for an advertiser, to kind of synchronize and homogenize, harmonize that data across. There's a pretty big opportunity, for.
I got to ask you, what's going on next to you? And if that's done, bring them on camera.
No, I don't know. There's just some dudes talking. They're getting a little loud over there, but hopefully it won't. They won't stay loud. There was a session.
I know you said the Walmart suite was right next to you.
It is behind us, but I don't think these guys came out of it. But yeah, sorry, but they're a little bit loud. But yeah, so no, I mean, measurement is a big thing, and we saw that. We talked about the dawning data dilemma, recently, and FMI is doing a lot of work also around retail media, and coming out of that work, is the need for consistent measurement standards. So there will be technologies that develop. There will be, the folks that bring those technologies to market, bring those measurement systems to market. They're going to stand to do very well. I think. It's still, it doesn't seem like it'd still be the early days, but it is still relatively the early days, in this space. And you've got the big guys with Amazon and Walmart, they've got pretty robust measurement systems, and they also have pretty big market share, that kind of justify them having their own systems. But as you get this super fragmented market growing, I think it's going to be really key to have very consistent standards across those.
I got to imagine Instacart's got a pretty big footprint there in terms of what
Instacart has a pretty big footprint. In this, the hallway that I'm in, where all the big tech companies have their meeting spaces and all the consultancies have their meeting space. Chris, Instacart has that space here as well, and they have a presence on the floor also. But I would say that relative to a grocery shop or even an NGA, their relative scale here, I don't think is, as far as that kind of space goes, isn't outsized. They're probably even a little bit smaller a percentage of the total,
right,
like exhibit hall space. But you definitely see them, present in just placements everywhere. They have a meeting room here.
Yeah.
So there's they're definitely out here in full force.
Is there any sense of moving to everybody? When we've done this in past years, we've talked a lot about AI, and how, the promise of AI, the promise of AI, the promise of AI. Is the sense there now that that things are moving along, that the promise is beginning to be lived up to in any sense?
Yeah, I think you're definitely starting to see, the AI come to life. In a variety of, in most tech companies, I would say last year, they all had some mention of AI in their booth. But then, when you kind of dug in a little bit, it wasn't really quite there. This year, you're absolutely seeing it built into their products. It's most clear, seeing it built into customer service interfaces, kind of, enhanced chat, personalization. You're seeing a lot of it come to life in that, and then you're starting to see more of the kind of the agentic AI use cases, starting to come to life. I think you're gonna, this is becoming kind of a critical ingredient of any tech of any capability. Has to have, it has to be AI powered, AI. Driven.
So I know one of your goals there is to talk to lots of small startups, as that's part of your thing right now. So I'm just curious, among the small startups that you're talking to, is there somebody who does, or a couple of companies that you really blew you away? They said, whoa, they're really onto something that could move the needle in grocery retail.
I think that's obviously a great question, and it's important for us to, be here and spend time with those super, early startups, because, in our CEP2 fund, we want to we don't want to get the raw startup, that has a product and doesn't have any customers yet. So we want to talk to, and work with companies that might have a pilot or two. They've proven some product market fit. And and then we can help them with further capital and our network of retailers. I think we're seeing thematically, I think we've seen here some pretty interesting use cases of blockchain, some pretty interesting use cases of computer vision, and using computer vision to do things like measure customer sentiment of like reaction to different media placements in store, right? And so it uses the computer vision, uses AI to determine. I'm also going to be meeting with a company right here after this that measures, based on things like rate of breathing, and different kind of physical elements, can determine the effectiveness of like different different shelf sets, and different kind of product layouts. So you're going to learn a little bit more about that one, but it's pretty cool to think about the use cases there.
And I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on that, but I'm just curious. I mean, my first visceral reaction to that is I find that invasive as a customer, that they're going to be able to measure my breathing to see what gets me excited when I'm walking up and down the store aisles.
A great point.
I think this is something, and I mean, listen, I think, and this gets back to the whole notion of measuring, right? To measure, there is some sense of invasiveness involved, and I can't help but wonder if companies are going to, if companies got to be really careful about that kind of stuff with consumers.
You definitely have to be careful.
I mean, here's a great example. I mean, this week, 23andMe basically declares bankruptcy. Their CEO leaves, although she's still on the board. Well, the site went down yesterday because so many people went on 23andMe to delete their information. And Mrs. Content Guy was one of them. Right? I never did it.
Get it.
She did it. And California, the government is suggesting that people do it.
Yeah.
And I think to me, that's sort of like, that's an example. That's an avatar for what companies have to be careful about going forward.
I totally agree with that. And have to be like over the top, right. Transparent,
right.
In that. And we've always said that if you're transparent in that, and you provide value back to the customer for them giving
right.
you access to them. If you provide them the right value, then they'll give you the right clearance, to do that. So I think that that's always going to have to be, that's going to have to be clear. I think that there's still a massive opportunity, and using whether it's blockchain or other kind of secure technology, to be able to kind of have ownership of your own identity, which of course you should have, but through that ownership of your own identity, really be able to have full control over how you're marketed to, the permissions you give relative to the benefits you get. I think that that's going to become even more and more critical, especially as you have different variety of technologies that are touching you as a consumer. You have AI behind that variety of technologies that are touching you. And that's just going to get just more and more significant. And I think that's going to be really key. So there will be technology, I think, out there, ultimately around, kind of identity and ownership of your own identity. I just think that's going to be really key.
Well, maybe that'll be the subject for Shop Talk 2026 or Groceries 2025. And at the very least, I know it'll be a conversation we'll come back to, because I just think it's really interesting. It's fraught with landmines, but it's also, there's lots of opportunity there for companies to do it right.
Yeah, I mean, you think about, the ultimate personalized, retail experiences, how much they can benefit you as a customer, right? Saving you time, making sure you're getting the right products and services, to solve your needs at the right time. Really, pretty amazing to think about the potential, but also pretty darn scary to think about the risk.
Yeah. Well, listen, you have meetings to go to. So good luck out there and safe travels, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.